it came out, if this was a risk you took it well because this film was amazing. It was just
Ah,
amazing. It was it was ahead of its time. It was nothing like anything I've seen from 1959. It was a new wave film. It's a French new wave film made in LA in 59. How weird was
Jim's
that?
nodding along.
Yeah, it's like how it was
It
just
is.
it was the
Except
narration
for
was
the hokey American story based on Freudian psychology.
it is. Well, it is. It was of its time. It was doing that
Right.
Freudian like voice in your head
It's
thing.
it's absolutely of its time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I was
But it
thinking
Both
wasn't
of them
too, but
are.
keep going.
Oh, you go ahead.
Mm.
Go ahead. I thought you were done.
It
Well,
was of
it's
its time and because it's the 50s and it's kind of like it's kind of crass commercialism, but it was like a Charles Bukowski poem in a lot of ways.
yeah, I was
Here's
gonna
my-
say
here's what.
it's of its
Yes.
time, but it really examines humanity in such a poetic way, literally.
Did
Yes.
we all watch the same fucking movie?
Like,
Yes, we all watched
I-
the same fucking movie.
listen, the only
Face it, you're just
once you settle into this movie,
challenged.
I think this
What is it?
poetry is absolutely beautiful. It's
Mhm.
absolutely beautiful. The writing is gorgeous.
It is.
The only complaint I have is I don't like the voices. I wish they were different actors. Maybe it was a little too stuffy. Both of them, the performers, for my personal taste.
Did you notice that the male narrator is already an alum of Yelling About Movies?
Gary Merrill.
That
Gary
voice sounded
Merrill
very
is-
familiar.
yeah,
Who is
He's
it?
in
All About Eve.
Eve.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, see, I wanted less that transatlantic,
or boyfriend.
whatever you call it, accent.
Yeah.
If it were
It
like
is mid-Atlantic.
mid-Atlantic, if it were better performers, actors, but I think the writing is just gorgeous.
It
And
is. It's off the
it's
hook.
such a weird, both of these sort of, but what a weird sort of half documentary, half narrative.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before, like in like this.
I
Well,
think
you've
this
seen
is
it in
truly an experimental film in that they came up with an idea for a form that no one had ever really done,
Right.
and they did it, and they stuck to it. It's not disorganized. It knows exactly what it wants to be, and whether you like it or not. I mean, it does set out
It's
to
like
do that.
like a found film.
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a
Film.
verite thing.
Except they shot.
It's a
all the
verite thing.
footage.
I
Right.
almost only like it because of the writing, to be honest, because otherwise it's just a jumbled bunch of imagery from the late 50s, which is all still kind of cool.
Well, yeah,
But-
there's a bunch of home movies of like ugly LA. There's like these like card shops and people getting their faces done and
Right.
like thing.
But
And
some
so
of the, I wish I would have
man,
written
the
down some of the
commentary about what's
lines.
going
Like,
on there was just amazing. It's beautiful.
yes,
One
the
of the
language.
themes this week is big cities, and this is the LA movie, and we're going to do the Paris movie later.
Uh-huh.
But the person who made the Paris movie likes Paris a lot more than the person who made the LA movie likes LA.
One thing is that
I don't know about that.
it's an indictment of
For
America.
the three people, yeah.
Yeah, it's a more of an indictment of America in general than Los Angeles in particular. I
Maybe so,
think.
yeah.
This,
Yeah.
well, these writers kind of hate everything a little bit, and
Yeah.
Hey,
But
they
it is
were
very-
living in America in the 50s.
but I think if you look at this, and I'm sure it was probably purposeful, but this is a very feminist film too, in a
Oh,
lot of ways.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That leads to my only objection to this film. The only thing I found that was off, because everything was perfect in it, was the fact there was a male. He was Gary Merrill. I would have loved it if it was a woman talking to her. Because why would the conscience,
yeah.
why would the angel in your head be male? Because
I mean, it's a nice balance in terms of.
It's the
It felt,
woman's
it felt
animus.
patriarchal. It's like, this is how you're feeling right now, you little girl, you know. And
But he never said that. Actually, he said he always said, "Tell me how you're feeling."
but
He
this is-
never
yeah,
imposed.
He asks
good
a lot
point,
of questions.
Good
He
point.
does that.
Yeah.
He's not saying this is what you should
Therapist.
feel and think.
Yeah.
He says, "Tell me what you're feeling and
Although
thinking."
he made some
He'll
judgmental shit.
make objective observations though.
Yeah, he does. He does make a lot of objective observations about things.
And it's quite mysterious who he is. I mean, his answer is a non-answer.
He's an angel.
I'm your
she
friend,
went
I'm
to-
your
He
angel.
went to Los Angeles.
Yes.
He's an angel.
I
see you read the blog page.
Oh, yeah,
I
exactly.
just thought of a
I mean, hey, it
theory.
makes
You know
sense
who
to
he
me.
is?
Wings of
He's
desire.
he's the same angel from It's a Wonderful Life. It's just a little bit different. He's over in
Yeah,
LA.
Clarence.
now,
True.
It's Clarence, but he's bitter now.
They're siding over a
jaded.
Also, this is not pretty LA. This isn't West LA. This isn't Beverly Hills. This isn't like the beach. This is all just miserable, like Rampart and downtown. It's like these awful
I'm
little
surprised
areas.
they didn't go to Watts.
They probably did at one point. So it's like it was
also, behind Scott, what a shock! I mean, like back then to see drag queens, that
Oh,
was probably almost
yeah,
unheard
no
of.
kidding.
the
No
ending
kidding.
is just one of the things that just kind of set me off in the stratosphere. It's like no one's doing this.
No
Nobody.
one. No one.
And not with
I
that
think-
kind
I
of
think
respect.
Well, remember, maybe you guys are too young, but in the 60s, it trailed off in the 60s. There was a place called Finocchio's in San Francisco.
Oh, I do recall.
Oh yeah.
It was a
that
thing.
had like full-on drag shows.
But that's San Francisco, and that's not being put on
Yeah.
film necessarily.
Yeah. But I mean, I was amazed too that an American shot in a
Also, I
drag
think that if
club.
I think this new San Francisco was supposed to be kind of an exotic place. Like, oh, let's go see the guys in drag. They kinda-
Baghdad by
it
the
was in on
Bay,
the joke,
yes.
but this was like,
Like
LA.
a destination.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
like these
I'll-
people just live there on a daily, and like
Yeah.
we're like we're
Yeah,
fucking.
I mean, you don't think of like drag when you think of, well, I guess you kind of do, of the 50s, but I mean, it just was fun watching them because they were clearly having a great time.
They were. They're
Well,
having a
you
lot of
know,
fun.
It's not like the drag that you see in what's the Billy Wilder flick with
Something-
Some like it hot.
Some like it hot.
Or Stalag 17.
or anything with Milton Berle and
Yeah.
Bob Hope
Yeah.
or something.
No, this
where
is
it's
real drag.
but they
Yeah, these
always
guys are
do
doing
it
their-
to other guys.
They're fully committed here. Yes.
Christmas
Well, all, yeah,
too.
all those
Yeah.
cases are like we have to do this to get out of something like bosom buddies,
Right,
you know, or
to
something
get out
like.
of something.
Oh,
To get into
There's always a
something.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a trivia bit for you. I'll just put this back. The opening. This is by Translux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody here recognize this company?
No.
No.
First of all, their major thing was actually doing like those big ad strips and like baseball things, like, you know, that it goes across and you read all the scores and like that. But these guys were also distributed television. These are the guys behind the American version of Speed Racer.
Oh,
That was-
right.
that was their
Wow.
name. So these guys were doing minor releases of independent films from the
Yeah.
from the
Right.
30s all the way through the 80s, and this is one of them.
Wow.
So, kind of interesting. Yeah. So
It's
that's
like
just
Brown Entertainment in the big picture.
yeah. I don't know if it was Poverty Row or not, but it might have been like a Poverty Row style release. I'm not sure exactly if it was, but
What do you mean by Poverty Row?
you know, there's a lot of like the people who made out there's B pictures back in the ones those two you showed were all made on, you know, in alleys and off of Sunset, basically.
The ones
Oh,
who
Teenagers
looked
from Outer
up
Space.
to-
Yeah, those were
the ones who
Poverty Row
looked up to
pictures.
Ed Wood.
Okay, Poverty Row.
Oops,
Yeah.
wrong movie. Oops,
It
wrong movie.
was a real name. I mean, it was like a string of studios out there.
Oh.
What street was it on? What?
It was mostly
Avenue?
on Gower and
Gower.
a couple of like Raleigh Street and things like that. So yeah, just like a little bit off the mark. But,
I found this thing just endlessly fascinating because it is a collage of unrelated clips, as Jared points out.
it is.
I mean, except there's a theme going through it, but it's clearly like they just went out and shot a bunch of stuff and then cut it together and wrote the narration for it. I assume
Yeah. Well,
that they shot for what did it say in the thing? 4 weeks they shot, or
that's not
I
too
think,
bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
also with their storyline in mind, with the main woman and the guy.
yes, because
and
they brought
the-
her around and had her in
Yeah.
scenes and stuff.
Well,
so
like they
it's not-
blended
But
it
you
in.
could tell a lot of it was done without them, you know, just
it was-
the
it was
camera
just,
guy
you know,
going out and
She
shooting.
went to a
Just
wrestling
guerrilla,
match,
yeah.
and they got pictures. They got film of her at the wrestling match, and they went
Yeah,
to
yeah.
she went to a burlesque
Yeah.
club, and they got pictures of her there. This was speaking of
The only
burlesque. This was
sync sound at
unusually
all is
sexy for
behind
the.
you.
What?
That's
what
the
Chris?
sound the whole movie is what's behind Scott.
Right.
This religious
Oh,
thing.
Yeah,
that
that-
was freaky.
That fucking stupidness.
Yeah. Well, you
Well,
know,
it- you
LA
very rarely, outside of anthropological films, see glossolalia.
Right.
Where people are speaking in tongues.
Also,
I
LA
think
is
that
a
was
very,
a fascinating scene, but it went on too long.
It went on too long. You're right.
They
but
they
LA
should've
is a
cut
very
it.
religious town, man. This is Amy Semple Pearson came from there.
Well, yeah, and they have those drive-in cathedrals. Or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So it's
My favorite part is that one woman who I think he said, I think you've been here last week or something, and then she immediately started speaking in tongues, and he was like, "All right, praise God, praise." He was, she was stealing.
Move her out.
She was stealing the show, and then they cut to her
Yeah.
like still going like
Yeah.
off in the
Yeah,
crowd
yeah.
somewhere.
Also had that bit with the woman getting a nose job. That was kind of hard to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
right.
was
Oh
rad.
my God.
Yeah.
An early
here's
nose
the-
job.
Here's the thing. If
This
you
made me
if
think
you-
a little bit of a lot actually of like Frederick Wiseman documentaries. We watched Salesman on the show.
That's a little
I
bit
thought
like-
of that too, and I loved that movie.
If you took the audio off this movie, I would like it 1,000 times more.
Really?
So you didn't like the script?
I couldn't have liked it any less.
Wow.
But
Ah.
I found the scenery. I mean, you guys even mentioned Haskell Wexler was one of the friggin' shooters on this.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Ouch. And
Great.
I find the old. I mean, I grew up in LA, right? Like I found all the old LA stuff yes, I fucking love that. I will watch this shit on YouTube for hours. But
Right.
that narrative was like nails on a chalkboard, and I didn't like the music either. So it's like if I just like
Yeah, the
Turn the
music was
sound off.
bad. The music was
my
bad,
opinion
but
of this movie goes up 1,000%.
Yeah, I don't know what
Well,
you was going with the
that
music.
see,
narrative-
I love the writing. I
But
think
you know,
that's
yeah,
what.
you and Jared are 100% opposite on this.
Yeah,
hated
I'm
it.
the opposite. Actually I do like a lot of the visual elements. I shouldn't say that I don't. I
just
absolutely do.
that you really got into the script.
I thought it was
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yes,
I love the way
I-
it lays in the page.
I don't think it was nonsense because
Utter nonsense.
I used to read poetry quite a bit. I dated
This
a
is
poet,
not poetry.
and
This
that's poetry.
it
That's
was-
real
Well, what
poetry.
I was going to say was this is like a Frederick Wiseman documentary with beat poetry over
Yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
blank
Well,
verse. It is. This is
Nothing.
Bukowski.
It's
This is like
definitely
Ferlinghetti.
More Bukowski. I don't like beat
More
poetry
Bukowski
personally.
than
But
truly beat.
but it has an open.
He's sort of
to it.
tangentially associated
Yeah.
with the beats, but
But the thing
yeah,
is,
he's
it's
his
like,
own thing.
but if anything, this goes back to your personal
Yeah,
hero, Guy
fellow
Madden
traveler.
again. This is
right?
an imagined biography of a woman who moves to Los Angeles, and
Yeah.
part of it is as a fiction about her, like getting, meeting this guy and going.
It
to
just
things
felt
and-
like a thing being shoehorned onto another thing. the
but
entire
with
running.
a lot of documentary stuff added into it to give
I
it
mean, it
color.
literally
It's very
probably is. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
Right, but because
But
I
I think,
but that's I couldn't get past that. Like you
But I
guys
think that
tried to
those-
prop
but
this
I-
thing up with some fucking beat poetry bullshit, and it just turn
I-
the music off, turn the sound off.
but I wonder how much it was. I really wonder how this came to be in terms of, because I would imagine
I
that
do too.
they were probably writing some of it before they were shooting and vice versa. Like I'm sure they shot a lot and they were like, we just have footage. We're just getting footage. And then I'm
Yeah.
sure whoever wrote it, I think it was maybe the two people who wrote it. I'm sure they were writing. I mean, because some of those are poignant thoughts. I mean, some of those
They
are
are.
really beautiful.
But I think you're
some
right,
of them cut hard.
Jared.
man.
I think if there was some sort of opportunistic kind of, this is pretty free form in that they were able to probably adjust what they were doing based on the footage they got and what they thought of to go out and shoot.
Yeah.
And then
Or
took
or
the
if they had
actors out
written
and shot those scenes.
like,
I
what if
don't
they
know.
wrote a phrase and they're like, we really need footage of this to go under that, or
I would love
it might
to
not be
hear-
consistent, but
I'd
No, I
love
have
to
no
read
idea
it
how.
behind the
I'm
scenes.
with Jared. I have no idea how this was made. Was this footage then the writing, or is it the narration for it?
I mean,
then
it
the
feels like
footage, then the
both
writing?
is what I'm suggesting.
I
but-
can't
It feels like a mixture of both.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
I guess it's an interesting.
Well, there's nothing
experiment.
stopping you from doing it that way. It's kind of, you can adjust as you go along
Yeah.
based on the footage you get.
You know what it's like? Oh my god, it's like Grizzly 2. It's like there's a lot
Well-
of stuff going on. They found footage of like a concert and like that. But there's
Yes.
also
Oh,
a
right.
narration in the center
Yes.
of it. It's like,
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong with it.
No, and I mean, you
it's
said
not the
French
best to
people-
go. Like,
Well,
camera
what
fell
happened?
over.
What
Where'd Scott
happened?
go?
Oh no,
Henry.
that camera
I
fell
mean,
over.
you
Don't
said.
worry.
I mean, like, yes, this feels like a. What year this come out? 59.
59, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
60, I
So
think
I
it was
mean,
released.
for its day, this is a pretty bold experiment, but I mean, for me, it was an experiment, and it didn't work on any other level other than I really liked looking at old LA.
It was old LA. It wasn't the pretty
Fair
old
enough.
LA.
I
Fair
feel
enough.
like it was an experiment that maybe even works better now than back then, or at least I found it kind of refreshing in a weird way. And
Well, it's obviously developed a reputation, I would say.
I had never heard of it, and it's hard to find a lot
Same
of
here.
stuff.
I had
like,
never
there's
heard of
very
it.
little trivia, like the IMDb,
Yeah.
very thin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This could
Couldn't
definitely
find-
use a. This could use.
how did
a-
you stumble upon this, John?
Okay. I came to it via Mastodon. Somebody I follow there named Sedema, and I don't know their gender or
I
anything
saw the
about
thing.
them, but they have a film blog, and Sedema mentioned this film, and I read it's about 2 paragraphs, pretty short little blog post,
Right.
and
I
then
was looking for more. I thought it was a link to something. It doesn't. It actually, it's like,
no, that's the whole thing. It's 2 paragraphs, and I
Uh-huh.
read it, and I was like, "Oh, damn, that sounds like something I need to see." So then I had to look for it, and I found it on a really janky Roku app called Classic Film Time,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then one of you guys found it on YouTube.
I
which
found
is
it on
actually
YouTube entirely.
yeah, it's
yes.
a much better looking.
It's a
copy,
better
actually.
print.
Although this could stand to be Criterioned or at least redone in like high
Yeah.
def, because it was all shot in
It's
35
Haskell
millimeters.
Wexler.
But
yeah, but some of that footage is poorly shot. Like some of it's out of focus.
Yeah, the thing is, it could be the.
Well, it's really
transfer, though,
nicely
because
shot,
It was
though.
the whole thing was muddy because it was like 480. It's like this. It's standard
Yeah.
definition. It looked like shit. I mean,
The,
again, that can't be
the-
helped. If it was a nice crisp transfer, we'd
Hmm.
probably have a whole different reaction to it.
Maybe.
thought.
Yeah.
No, I think it
Maybe
looked
not
pretty good.
for
I'm not
Chris.
talking about that. I'm talking about actually some of the camera work. Like they were out of like the shooters
Oh,
were
no,
out
it
of
was all
focus
like
sometimes.
little
Like,
funky.
you could tell they had push stock and they're out there like shooting on
Yeah.
on the street.
Yeah.
And it's like
yeah, when you're doing
it was
guerrilla,
okay.
sometimes you don't know how perfect.
Also,
Right.
there's
And then
a
other
lot
shots
of,
are really, really crystal clear and beautiful. And
I'm sure there's guys
I
with their
don't know,
release photos
the
must have been
night
busy.
stuff like all this shit looked fantastic.
That horsey was
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, the horse shots.
I was like,
I liked all the night stuff.
The night
That
stuff was
opening
great.
shot with that weird thing that's like, yeah, some of the old
Also, that
LA
rotating thing with that statue of the girl
Yeah,
with the
that was-
cowboy
Yeah,
hat.
the girl
Give
with the
you a-
cowboy.
What a
Oh,
way to
yeah,
kick-
yeah, yeah.
What
So-
a way to
That was all
kick your
really
movie
cool,
off,
mate.
man. It's like that's awesome.
I wonder if the way in too, because it was very sort of socially unacceptable to be like a divorcee, you know, at that
Oh,
time.
absolutely,
probably.
it was.
And I wonder if that was the first idea, like the window into the whole project.
Feel like it is.
You know,
That first dialogue with her, and he says, "What's your name?" And she says, "Judith." Judith what? Judith X. She's like,
because
she's
ex-husband,
erasing her
ex-wife.
identity
Yeah,
because
right.
she's divorced and
He
she's
flew away
going to a
to-
different town. I mean, that's how bad divorce was. It was like, I'm going to pick up and move to a place where nobody knows me because I'm so
Yeah.
destroyed by this.
And I did feel for how he's like, maybe call him, and she's like, no, and then she calls him, and well, he's happy and he's getting married. You know, it was I felt that. You know, there was like, you know, you because it's the kind of film. It's the kind of film that invites you to put yourself into any part of it.
Right.
I'm so interested in that, Jared, in that, I mean, we are getting this much of her story and it's still affecting, right?
It's universal. I think that's why.
Rejection.
Like it's right. You know, the best stories are about something specific that is actually completely universal, where you
Right.
can imagine
Well
yourself
said.
there or how
Well
they
said.
must feel.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I wanted to bring up something because it was specifically mentioned in the blog that I sent you guys, which is that this is sort of pre-dates like the 70s Hollywood New Wave.
Oh yeah. No Hollywood.
But she compared it. Sedema sounds female to me, so I'm going to say she. In the blog, Sedema says it's more Mondo than anything else, and that was a reference to a movie called Mondo Connie. How you guys?
Oh yeah, no, that
familiar with
very
that?
much
Yeah.
so.
I mean, that was
I'm not-
actually a pretty big hit. It's a very strange film, which it's in that it's like this, in that it's a bunch of unrelated stuff cut together, just sort of for the sensation of it.
Yeah.
So,
but
it's
is the
like-
Mondo also sometimes do more like instructional type of?
They do like they actually a lot of gross stuff, like the
It's
Mondo
gross
gross.
stuff. It's like weird, you know, like animals
Eating-
born with deformities,
or
and
eating
then
yeah,
tribal
yeah.
rituals.
Monkeys
We
in a
film
restaurant.
But
around.
sometimes do they
That kind of
sometimes
thing,
have
right?
like a doctor or an instructor like
Mondo.
presenting
Yeah,
it
yeah.
to you?
But
Possibly. I
It is
don't
a
know.
Mondo thing, and that's kind of like a lot of the faces in here remind me of like remember that Drew Friedman, remember the illustrator? Remember him?
Yeah.
I have two of his books.
Yes.
Yeah, there
it's
you
a,
go.
it's a
It feels like
parade.
a Drew
It's a
Friedman
parade
movie,
of grotesques.
Yeah, the grotesque
freaks.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's
So-
what it felt
Well,
like.
yeah, it's sort
But-
of like a Fellini movie. in
That's
that way.
true. That's also true.
And
La-
you know what else?
last year-
Another thing I thought it was like these days, nobody would make this film. It would just be a bunch of stuff compiled on YouTube. It would be a bunch of clips.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because that's what it is. It's like, oh, look at this. That's weird. Oh, look at this. And that's what Mondo Connie is, basically, is it's sort of a sensational.
And I liked that
So,
angle. I didn't like having to follow the narrative.
you didn't like the narrative.
No, not at all.
I know it's cuddle something.
So
Fish.
Huddle some.
I was interested enough in this thing to click through on all the IMDb pages of the 3 people listed as directors, and
Yeah.
I want to quickly cover
They're all
this 'cause
dead.
it's fascinating. They're all dead.
Sorry, cuddly
none of
toys.
them
Cuddly
have-
toys.
None of them cuddly toys. Okay. None of them have huge filmographies. Ben Maddow did a movie called The Asphalt Jungle, which is a heist movie with
That's
Sterling
kind of a big
Hayden.
deal for its day.
Yeah.
I've heard of that for
but
sure.
It's not the concrete jungle. It's not
No,
the
I know
blackboard jungle. It's the
It's the
asphalt,
asphalt
jungle.
jungle.
Right. And then he made this thing, 1963, an adaptation of a Jean Genet play called The
Which
Balcony.
one?
The
Oh,
Balcony.
he made the balcony. That's got
I
Peter
gotta
Falk
find-
in it.
Jim, what?
Peter Falk and Leonard Nimoy are in that.
Peter Falk, Lee Grant, Shelley Winters, and Leonard Nimoy.
Oh wow.
Listen
I've
to
seen
this.
it.
It's a play. You've seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to
Any-
find
any-
it.
any
Years
good?
ago.
Any good?
You can't,
It
you
was
can't find it
interesting.
anywhere.
Yes.
It's about
That's
a
a stellar
madam of
cast.
a brothel.
It really looks like a filmed play.
That's a stellar
Does
cast.
it? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
about a madam of a brothel and 3 of her customers who impersonate political figures in order to try and stop a revolution.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds interesting, actually.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Jean Genet is he was like this homosexual philosopher, French, but he was like working class and he got put in prison. And there he wrote a bunch of poetry and stuff. And then he also was doing plays when he got out of prison. Interesting character.
It's kind of like Oscar Wilde.
Jean Genet.
Did he get-
Oscar Wilde?
I feel like I
was
know the name.
East aristocracy.
Yeah, this guy was more like blue collar, right?
Yeah, like he was into rough trade, let's say.
Oh
Uh-huh.
boy.
And so the other 2 directors are Sidney Meyers and Joseph Strick. Meyers is listed as an editor on his other credits, mostly docs, and then Joseph Strick is listed as a producer for the other films he worked on. He made a documentary about the My Lai massacre.
Oh, back in 69 or 70?
Yeah, late
Or about
early
the
70s,
trial.
I think. And I don't know anything more about it except that's the
I
subject.
think they were
It's a
like
short.
college, maybe college buddies. Maybe they all went
Maybe.
to UCLA or USC or something like that.
The
They
other
all
interesting
seem to be
credit
about
for
the same age. Yeah.
the other interesting credit for Strick is that he did an adaptation of James Joyce's Ulysses as a
Wow.
feature.
I've seen that one too.
Oh, boy.
That's
where
not
I know it
ambitious.
came from.
Oh yeah, no fooling.
What's
Yeah.
that, Jim?
I saw the Ulysses one, which takes place in like 1960s Dublin. It's very strange because the book takes place in like before World War I almost.
Sure.
Yeah.
They didn't have the budget to shoot it
Strick.
in period.
He did another Joyce flick too. He may
Oh,
have done Finnegan's Wake.
All right, well,
I thought his name seemed familiar.
I guess we could probably
Yeah.
go to the cards on this.
I didn't expect it, but I think this is
Me too.
this is what this channel's for, to make me watch.
Oh, okay.
things that I
have
wouldn't-
no. It's a
never
wonderful
heard of.
surprise. Yeah, it was.
Chris likes it with the sound turned down.
I like it with sound off, sound
Yeah.
on.
I love the way
You remind me of somebody who went to see Koyaanisqatsi and he said, it's okay except for that Philip Glass.